All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to just talk about the principles of kitchen design. And next week, we're actually going to be looking at practical examples of the principles we're going to talk about today. Design a kitchen for the way you live. Do you have a large family? Do you like entertaining?
Kitchens are ergonomic, and they're ergonomic specifically for how you work your family and how you're going to, operate in that space.
Now, don't have a giant island and make your walkways too small.
So often we see designs being done by kitchen designers, no disrespect to them, but sometimes when it's a working family and someone's opening the dishwasher and opening a drawer opposite, it's impossible to do that because they've only left this, a 900 space. You do need to think about what appliances are in that space, how many people are going to be using that space at any one time. Obviously, it is going to be taking up a premium space in the footprint of your home.
Then the second thing is look at layout first and style second.
Adding the robo vacuum cleaner in a cupboard, or ice water, plumbed water, the coffee area or a breakfast area where you're going to have your toaster. Think about how that's all going to work and get the layout right first.
So I see with the original triangle, it would be the cooking, the cleaning, and the storage, being fridge included in that. But now they've added 2 extra zones, which is entertainment and preparation. Food preparation. Yes. So I think it's important to make sure that you've got all those zones as part of that kitchen footprint, whether it be a small kitchen or a large kitchen.
So thinking about water, how many fridges, how many dishwashers, where's the dustbin going to be? If you're preparing in one space, you might want to have 2 areas for the dustbins.
And then the don't just look at a picture that you've seen on the internet and think you're going to replicate that without considering how you live.
So the building code now stipulates that any ventilation in a kitchen needs to be ventilated out. It does need to have a ceiling cavity space and be vented out either through the soffit or through the roof. So
I think it's also important to have natural ventilation.
Natural ventilation is critical. Yeah.
The work triangle that we've actually spoken about a little bit already. Again, just make sure that triangle is not placed too far apart.
Yeah.
You have a large kitchen.
Yeah. So that's that. You don't want to be running a marathon.
And then the don'ts would again be don't have the island cutting off access to the fridge or having the dishwasher too close to the island.
The fridge positioning is critical, particularly if you're a larger family with children, because that's the most touched appliance in the kitchen. So make sure that fridge is strategically placed. Just spending a little bit more time talking to someone that knows what they're doing and understands the do's and don'ts and is the professional in that field. It may cost you a little bit more, but honestly, the thought up front
will save you in the long run. Invest in what you touch every day, and that's one of the things you were talking about, the fridge being one of those things, but hinges, hardware, tapware.
Those are always the things where the clients go to first if they need to trim the budget. Those are the areas that are most touched and most used. Do not skimp on the hardware in your cabinetry. The kitchen sink and the kitchen tap. That sink takes a hammering. When you think of the hot, the cold, the grease, the scratches, the utensils that are thrown in there, do not skimp on the quality of your sink, because replacing that down the line becomes quite a challenge. It's the whole sink out, finding a sink that's going to fit the hole, unless you've got to recut the bench top.
And then the don'ts are don't spend the majority of your budget on, in this instance, a very fancy chandelier, and then skimp on your hinges.
Anything that has moving parts needs to be upscaled on the budget.
My next point, which is storage.
Accessibility in your kitchen is king. As you really want to just pull out, visually see it, and select what you need. Also, the hygienic aspect. You want something that's easily clean, easy that you can get into the back. If you're a family with massive big platters, where are you going to store that? If you're a family that loves chopping boards, where are you going to store that? If you've got a whole lot of cooking books, where's that?
The pull-out pantry, of course, is a favorite.
There are a lot of really good renditions on that at the moment. So pull-out, spin, all sorts of things. So, great. The corner cabinets, I'm not a fan of those.
But the don't is don't accept dead space in the kitchen. So make sure you use every little bit of space that you can. And then lighting, your specialty.
Yeah, so lighting in a kitchen, we often see massive failures in this area. One needs to remember that if the lighting is coming from behind your head, it's going to shadow the workspace. And you do really want quite a high level or high lumen output on that benchtop surface. You also want to make sure that the color rendering is spot on. So with LEDs, getting a high color rendering is important. And if you start going for the cheaper light fittings, it's going to discolor that. So be really mindful of that. Definitely under bench lighting, fantastic. Make sure your LEDs have a really good cover strip on it so that that light is diffused.
And then the don'ts is don't have one central ceiling light.
Yeah, don't ever do that. You really want a very even, when all the lighting's on, you want a very even lumen output.
Then choose materials for real life. So be realistic about what you're choosing.
Bench tops is critical. So with the advent of technology, you know, if you don't have the budget for a stone bench top of some sort, whether it be marble, polished, honed, whatever, or an acrylic finish, you can go for the laminate. Laminates have really come around in leaps and bounds. We have some fantastic ones. Look, glass splashbacks were a real thing. To be honest, they're hard to clean, they're hard to maintain.
And then the don'ts, again, the glass cupboards with small children, they're always going to show fingerprints.
Yeah. The darker, the glossier, you're going to have problems.
And you're going to spend your life cleaning.
Definitely the bench tops, making sure the selection is right. Slippery tiles is a huge problem. The other thing that I would really recommend is making sure if you have young children that you are strategically placing that island and the cooktop, wherever that's going to be placed, and the oven, because you want to make sure that you can actually protect the kids from that. The other thing is to think about where materials stop and start, because you know, you could have this fancy cabinetry and then all of a sudden there's a nib wall or there's a bench top fitting into it. How is that splashback going to work in there? Where's things going to stop and start?
And your detailing must be done before the kitchen gets manufactured.
That's right. That's right. Oh, and that's the other thing. So often I see kitchen installers, you know, do everything, the pre-plumb, the electricals, the paintwork, the flooring, everything, and then pop your carcasses in and finish off the kitchen.
And then the island, which we spoke briefly about earlier, is make sure you've got at least a meter, and I would say more if you can, as much storage as possible in that island.
PowerPoint's critical. You need to have a really solid electrical plan before the kitchen goes in, because everything needs to be pre-wired, particularly if you didn't have an island before. Making sure you're 100% set on your plan before construction starts is critical. And even if you are in a home that you're not going to redo your kitchen, I really do think you should have a look at your ventilation. So these days, minimalistic kitchens, whether you go for ornate cabinetry or not, but really you want the appliances hidden. Design the end goal and go from there is what I always say.
And then think long-term resale. So rather keep your cupboards neutral and maybe do a colourful splashback, or have your accessories adding the colour or the trend, because that's easy enough to change.
If this is your long-term home, okay, go for golds, make it your own. If the home is going to be sold at some stage, you know, a kitchen is not replaced every 6 months.
And then the don'ts is don't go everything just for trend.
Yeah.
Your taste is not everybody's taste.
100%. You know, make it your own with all the accessories and bits and pieces. Definitely.
And then lastly, design for the future.
When you are designing with drawers, you really want to minimize the lines. So make sure you've got, you know, all wide drawers as they've got here, but then you could possibly have some secret drawers within the drawer for the smaller cutlery. Look, whether you're old or whether you're young, access is better with drawers. You do just need to think about that cost.
Next week's talk is going to be the actual implementation of what we spoke about today, and we'll take some kitchens that have not such great designs and see how we can change them to function better. So thanks for joining us.